tell me a little bit about your role here?
Yes, I'm a member of the Milford Historical Commission, and we're very proud of the part that Milford Pink Granite played in our heritage, and we want other people to be aware of it, because many people that live in town don't realize all the buildings in Milford and some in Washington and New York are made of Milford Pink Granite.
Now, exactly what are we doing here?
We advertised a tour, a walking tour, and put it in the paper, and many people have come to check it out themselves to see what the quarries are all about, because they may have grandfathers that worked in the quarry.
Awesome. Now, are we going to every quarry in Milford?
We're going to 5. We're going to go to Clere's, Fletcher's, Haskell's, Dodd's, and Norcross Quarry. There are 3 we're not going to go to today, and they would be the down in the American Athletic Club, which was at one time called the Railroad Quarry, and the one at Dodd's the one at St. Mary's Cemetery. They used only the surface granite at St. Mary's. They didn't have to dig a ledge hole. It's right aside of St. Mary's Cemetery on Cedar Street. And Carroll's is the 3rd one we're not going to go to today. And it's behind what used to be the industrial company, and they park buses on there. Gene Sear owns the property on Dilla Street.
Great. Now, could anybody that missed the tour today, is there other tours that are up and coming?
No, I'm afraid not. This probably will be my last. This is the 5th one I've done, and I may call it quits.
Oh, that's a bummer. Since that's been said, is there any way for people to get this information so they can go on a tour for themselves, perhaps, if they want to?
Well, if you make a CD out of this, then perhaps they can follow what you say on the cable TV. That would be very good. And the Historical Commission has a lot of information on it. We're open every Thursday, 1 to 4 in Memorial Hall.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you very much for coming. The Milford Historical Commission is very proud of the Milford Pink Granite. The first small quarry started around 1840. In the 1846 census, there's only 6 people working as quarrymen. But in 1866, St. Mary's Church was started. Father Patrick Cudahy had built a church in Ireland. He built one in Lee. He built one in he built 3. Great Barrington, yes. And so this one started in 1866, right after the Civil War ended and the men came home from the war. And it opened its doors on Christmas Day in 1870. And Father Cudahy also built St. Mary's Grammar School, which was down the street here. And it has since been moved by Consigli Construction Company. And it's a beautiful building. It's their corporate office down on Sumner Street now. And he built an Irish round tower. Father Cudahy was lonesome for his homeland, and he wanted to bring a bit of Ireland over here, so he built himself an Irish round tower. So, Milford Pink Granite was discovered in 1870 by the Sherman brothers, and that's what really put Milford on the map, was the pink granite, because of its beauty and its strength. It went everywhere, to Washington, New York, Ohio, so it put Milford on the map. I'm going to stop briefly at a couple of locations, and I'll talk a little bit at each location, but I want to keep moving because we have a lot to cover. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures. I made 2 copies of each. You want to pass these around, please? And what they are is, Dan Malloy took a picture 30 years ago of a quarry when there was no water in it, and you can see where the columns are cut out. And then this bottom picture is Milford Pink Granite at the Webb Quarry, and it's the largest stone, one of the largest stones, because one was larger after. It was like 100 feet by 30 feet by 30 feet. So that was a huge granite block that they cut.
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll pass it back
Yeah.
this way.
So as I stop at each stop, I will give you a little bit of the history. Does anybody know how old granite is?
600 million years.
It's 610 million years, it is. Somebody is smart. And do you know what it is made of?
Rock. Quartz, feldspar, and mica.
That's right, it is quartz, feldspar, and mica. And do you know what kind of stone it is? Is it sedimentary? Is it volcanic? Igneous. Very good. He got it right. It's igneous rock. So it went everywhere. If you ever go to Washington, it's at the First Division Monument, the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, at the Immaculate Conception Church. It's at the Apex Building. It's at the Treasury Building. And it's at the Union train station also in Washington. And in New York, Grand Central Station was made of it, and that was torn down to make way for Madison Square Garden. And that was the start of the historical commissions, because after they tore it down, they realized that, gee, that was a shame. And so they started protecting these old buildings. And Grand Central Station is still in New York, and that's a fabulous building, and that's Milford pink granite. And there's the main monument in Central Park, which is also Milford granite. So if you go to New York also,
Huh?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, we're from Holliston.
Oh, okay.
Is that Hollis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Transported.
It got transported by train. I was showing somebody the train was very important to Milford. That's what far advanced it over the surrounding towns. If you see here, we had two trains. We had the Boston and Albany going toward Boston on Route 16 toward that way, and we had New York, New Haven, and Hartford train. And so it was brought. They made spur tracks from the quarry over to the train, and then they hooked up the freight trains. So that's how it got all across the country, was by train. But we had two trains on Central Street. There's one depot still standing, that's Milford pink granite, and Agatha King, I think his real name was Ed, is the one who oversaw the building of the one that's now Country Liquor. All right, we're going to move on to the next quarry. I know we're anxious to get going and see a quarry. Is that what you want, lobsters? I hope it's not too wet.
You got premium price? This? Yep.
Yeah, because they didn't want it. They discarded it for one reason, not the quality or the color they wanted or something. I said there's enough there left, they said, to build 2 city blocks. But it's there, yeah. But you go see the water's edge and come back, because we're going to go back up another trail. I hope those people read me down there to say that. We'll circle. Yeah, this is the 5th time. But never so many people. Don't trip over all these posts, but this is what I'm trying to show you, is that... Oh, okay. These and the ones down there, you can see the 2 granite posts down there, where they anchored the derricks. They had a large boom that was 80 to 90 feet high on. So in order, so it didn't tip over, they would attach it to these.
Okay.
So I was just going to say there's 2 more of these that I'm going to pass around. We got the Boston Public Library, South Station, and that's the Chamber of Commerce. That was the Exchange Grain Store in Boston, and the John Hancock, but I'm not absolutely positive on the John Hancock, because in the book it said the John Hancock was made out of Milford pink granite, the old John Hancock. So I assumed it was that one, but now there may have been 3, so I'm not absolutely positive that that's the one. I have to check into that. Yeah, that's questionable. So the heavy cables, they had these big heavy cables that they would wrap around these big blocks, and they would lift them with the crane and put them on a spur track. There was a train, and also they used oxen and wagons. So if they didn't have the train, they would put these big granite blocks in the back of a wagon, and oxen would pull them. I have a picture of them going down Purchase Street with ox pulling them. And from there, they would be cut. They go into the cutting shed. The train track went right inside of the cutting shed. And there they would cut it to size, whatever was ordered for the building, or they would shape it into a monument if it's for a monument. And the men were all nationalities. There was Irish, Italians, Swedish, Armenians, and they were Catholic and Protestant, and they worked side by side, and they took pride in their work. They worked very hard, long hours. And the Italians felt right at home over here because they were stonemasons in their own country before they came here. And General Draper was an ambassador to Italy. I don't know if you knew that at one time, at the end of the 1800s. And so General Draper did bring Italians over here also to work in the quarries as well as the Drapers. All right, we're moving on.
I didn't hear what you said these were.
These were to hold the derrick so it didn't tip over, to fasten them.
What's a derrick?
It's like a crane, and it had a long boom, and the booms were 80 to 100 feet tall. And so they would tip over. So they used to swing out and pick up the big blocks. There would be men down below with heavy cables. They were metal cables. We may see some cables as we walk around today.
How deep is it? Do you know?
120 feet, somebody told me this one was. And the other's 80, but I'm not sure. I didn't measure them myself, but somebody told me that. We're going to move on to a picturesque spot of quiet and serene, but years ago it was bustling with workers. Oh, if these walls could talk, imagine the stories they could tell. Time has filled the quarries with water. I have been told that this one is 120 feet deep. The ledge walls have outcroppings as the quarrymen worked at different levels. They had ladders to go from one level to another. And in the winters were especially hard because of the bitter cold. There was also the fear of getting scoliosis, which was a lung disease that stoneworkers got. You always dreaded to hear somebody start to cough. They used to blast the stone, then use the pin and feather technique. And there's a couple here from Concord who gave me a pin and feather today. They used the chisels, and later on they used hydraulics to split the rock. Tool boys went back and forth to the blacksmith shop to sharpen the tools. And next time we're going to go over to where there's more grout, even more grout than as we came in. So does anybody want to walk that far? If not, you can return to your car and we'll meet you at the car. It's about a 5-minute walk just around to the other side. We're going to be standing on the bricks that are, the blocks that are over there. Go out here and up by the Upper Charles Trail. It would cross the Upper Charles Trail onto Dilla Street and go across to where Sabatinelli's property is. And there was a long cutting shed there that was almost 100 feet long, right along Milford Pond. And so the train tracks crossing Water Street by the water company, I can remember them, so they didn't come up too long ago. How many years ago would you say? 40 years ago?
40, 50 years ago.
40 years ago, probably. But the train tracks for the quarry, the spur track, went right by Sabatinelli's property, and there was a 100-foot cutting shed over there. And the train went right inside the cutting shed.
How long was it operational?
This one?
In the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how long it was operational, sir. Oh, yeah. Probably from, well, it was after 1870, around 1870 to 1940. This is an illegal hangout, and the police do patrol it. They're trying to keep the kids safe so they don't come down here and party. Any questions? I'm going to pass around Washington, D.C. We have the Patent Office, the Federal Trade, First Division Monument, and the Lincoln Memorial.
So, Ann, this is Clare's Quarry.
This is Clere's Quarry. And I'll tell you what names it had before, because I wrote it at the beginning. William Sherman's, it was Massachusetts Pink Granite Quarry, Webb Quarry, and then Clere's. And Webb Quarry, when he came in, he bought up several of them because he had them numbered by, 6, 7, 8, 9. And a lot of them were known by the superintendent's name, like George Simpson and Carroll, who didn't own the quarries, but they were the superintendents. But in order to identify the different quarries, they would be known as by the superintendent's names. So you hear a lot of names for the quarries.
I did have a question about the underlying geology. How far does all of this extend? The reason I'm asking...
The Rocky Woods area, you mean?
Well, no, I'm from Hopkinton.
Okay.
And there's these stories about, the pink granite extends up into Hopkinton, and they did some quarrying in Hopkinton. A lot of quarries there.
Yeah.
The question is, geologically, how far does this...
Milford pink granite is found from Framingham to Woonsocket.
Okay.
That whole thing is called a batholith in my geology book. And so what you find in Uxbridge is also called. So if you go to Purgatory Chasm, you will find Milford pink granite. If you go to Blackstone, there's the gorge down at Blackstone. There's a wall that's 100 feet tall, and it's Milford pink granite. So there's Quincy granite. That's not just in Quincy, but Boston and surrounding towns. Chelmsford is not just in Chelmsford. So there are other local quarries. But Massachusetts, New England's known to be rocky, as we all know. Some places have the bayous, some places have Great Lakes, some places have desert. New England is known for its rocks. That's why we have so many stone walls around here. But Milford is fortunate because we not only have stones, but we also have this magnificent pink granite.
Go ahead.
What's our next destination?
We're going back to our car, and then we're going to go to Fletcher's Quarry, which is up Route 85 in Walden Woods. Delfonte, that owns Whitensville.
Right.
He's third generation quarryman, Tom Delfonte. His grandfather worked in the quarry, and then his father started a monumental business, and now he still has a monumental business. So he's the only one who had a piece of Milford pink granite for my tombstone. Here are those two granite things that hold up the derricks.
Could you tell me what you're doing here today?
Well, I'm chairman of the Milford Upper Charles Trail Committee, and I just want to review my long-forgotten history of the Milford Quarry. So this is an opportunity for me to refresh myself, because people on the trail always ask me about the quarries, and I can't remember all the details anymore. So I've come along this walk just to get a refresher course.
Awesome. How'd you find out about this?
It was in the newspaper. I think it was in the Boston Globe too. So it was well advertised.
Wow, so we must have people from all over.
From what I can tell, yeah, there are a lot of people that are not from Milford here just curious about Milford quarries and pink granite.
Would you suggest this tour to anybody, outsiders?
Oh yeah, I mean this is a great opportunity to find out what happened in this area at the turn of the century, to get a real appreciation for how all this rock was taken out of the ground basically by hand.
Now, were you one of those hoodlums just jumping off the rocks as a boy?
Well, no comment.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Type of columns that will go and hold up the buildings in New York and Washington. There's columns in there if you want to see columns. Okay, everybody, we're at Peter Ross once owned this quarry. It was over 300 acres of prime quarry land in what they call the Deerbrook area. He was considered to be the father of the industry. He started a big quarry and then eventually sold out to 3 different owners. He sold to Cutting, Norcross, and Theodore Perry. Peter Ross single-handedly carved the steps in Memorial Hall that have the battle scenes of the names of all the battles of the Civil War. If you come to Memorial Hall someday, you can see them, but he single-handedly carved all of those steps, and they came out of this quarry. There was a spur track that ran from here across Cedar Street, which is the road we just came up, leading to a large cutting shed. And from there was also the train track. There was the New York, New Haven, and Hartford train track that went that way, as well as a trolley line that went up to Hopkinton. They run parallel along the Upper Charles Trail. So they were able to transfer on a spur track the granite right from here over to the cutting shed. And this one had 8 derricks, and they had the large booms 80 to 90 feet high, and you'll see some up on the hill. We'll go for a walk afterwards up on the hill. But it was a very large working quarry. That's the footing for a cutting shed. I thought it was a train trestle, I said that, and it's not a train trestle. I thought that they had a track on top of that. You can see it from the Upper Charles Trail. Oh, the DOT has posted a sign on the Upper Charles Trail explaining about the quarry and pointing out the foundation for where that cutting shed was. Thank you.